night two of SummerSlam. John Cena, Cody Rhodes going at it. People say Super Cena, Super Cody, whatever, however you want to frame that. But a massive match between the two of them. And I did see, this was actually what got me, I haven't kept up too much with WWE this year, but it does pop up on my timeline here and there. And I think after SmackDown on Friday, I did see that Cena had turned face again in his confrontation with Cody pre-pay-per-view. So people were like, oh, we're going into a pay-per-view, a face versus face match, which is interesting in itself. And I was wondering at the time what this means moving forward. Like, I knew they can't have Cena hold the title until he retires, because that itself kind of holds up the title picture. So you have to find a way to get the title off of him while also maintaining his image, while also potentially putting over someone, whoever's going to take out Cena for the final time for the title. Potentially, that's going to be a super boost moment. Cody doesn't need to do this. This is really against the company, but I think that seeing them go face versus face in a street fight as well, which is that's interesting. Usually associate in street fights and rule sets like that with more negative characters. I thought that was a whole interesting setup. I didn't know what that was going to mean in terms of why turn Cena face only halfway through the year, what that means. Because I think we talked about this months ago. Now that Cena first turned heel, that we assume he's going to turn face at some point before he retires. That's not going to be how he's not going to go out of the heel. I was assuming it was going to be closer to the end of the year. Seeing it have him go out as a face maybe just towards the end. But seeing it turn face in July into August, I was like, okay, that's a bit early. What does that mean? I don't want to skip over the match. We can get into the match too, but we can see they had a little plan there. So, and now Cena turning face makes a lot of sense given how things played out. But I guess we'll talk about the match first. What were your thoughts viewing this match in person? I know there's a lot of thoughts online. One, about the caliber of the match, and there's a lot of praise for it. There's also a lot of hesitation about the Super Cena, Super Cody, a million finishers situation. But I think for someone who saw it in person, how did that play out for you?
Because I saw it in person, I don't care how many finishes they use. Context. Finishers are a wrestler's final, signature move that finishes the match. That's what they are. Cena has the attitude adjustment. Cody Rhodes has the crossroads. And in high-profile matches, you're going to see those finishers being used more than just once. It's gotten to the point now which I think is fine. I think when you have a lot of false finishes, which is basically when you have those moments where the wrestler hits their finisher and everyone's kind of holding their breath, and as the referee counts, and is this it? Okay, there's a kick out. Wow, you got me there. I thought it was going to end, but you got me. False finishes are one of the craziest things. I think one of the best parts of watching in life, because you really think it's going to end. You're not sure, and then there's a kick out. There's okay, we're still going. Wow, that's a feeling that you really can't compare. And I think the more you watch wrestling, the better trained you are in being okay, this might be a false finish right here, this might be a false finish right there. But there are still moments, and last night I had a ton of those where I was completely caught off guard by a kick out. So that within itself, I think, is such an emotional roller coaster. And I think when you preserve the multiple finishers for these very, if you are very intentional about when you use them. So this was the main event of SummerSlam, right? I think it deserves a lot of false finishes. I think you've earned the right to use a lot of finishes and to really score the audience, because it adds to the caliber of the match, it adds to the predictability. It just all around does so much to making it such an unpredictable. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, your video was cutting out here and there, but your audio was good.
Yeah. All right. So yes, I'm finishes, and if we actually dive into the match itself, there was a lot to take place. There was banned moves being used, like Cody Rhodes uses the pile driver on John Cena, which is like this controversial move that you don't see a lot, so they pulled it out for this one. Really cool. They're wrestling in the crowd, man. They got into the fans, and they're like fighting out there in the crowd. There's even this moment where they go backstage, and then they have, I think this was maybe, depending on who you ask, this could be a little bit much. But basically, they fought, and there's a second where they go backstage and they're still fighting, and then they eventually reappear at center stage towards which is where the wrestlers make their entrances. And John Cena was holding Cody Rhodes in the attitude position, and then hits him on the stage. Yeah, kind of, to me personally, I was like, all right, that was a little bit dramatic. Like, that was a little bit much. I'm a fan of the theatrics of pro wrestling. I was like, okay, that might have been a little bit too much. But because it was such a good match already taking place, we were kind of like, man, whatever, man. Like, I just want to see how this plays out. So there's chairs being used, there's tables being used. I'm still against the Slim Jim advertisements on the tables, which I think is ridiculous. But that's not the wrestler's fault. But yes, so many spots, just so much taking place. And what I will say too, I was talking about false finishes. The big thing now, the way Cody won that world title back at WrestleMania 40 in 2024, he hit Roman Reigns with 3 crossroads in a row, and that's how he won the whole thing. He hit his finisher 3 times. That's what it took to win the world title. In this match specifically, Cody hit Cena with 3 crossroads. I thought it was over. Cena kicks out, which I'm like, wow, no way. A little bit later on, Cena hits him with 2 attitude adjustments, 2 AAs in the ring. Climbs to the top rope and hits him with an A from the top rope. I believe. I'm pretty sure that happened. Grant reminder that I was there, so I just can't. Sometimes I'm like, am I making that up? Like, there's just so much happening. A little bit of a blur. But yes, I believe that did happen. Hits him with an A over the top, off the top rope, which I was like, okay, that has to be it, because an avalanche AA you don't see all the time, so this has to be the end of the match. Cody ends up kicking out, and you're like, wow, bro, like, each wrestler hit their move 3 times, and it's still not ending, right? Which then led into that little backstage portion that I talked about, where Cena hits him with the AA on the stage. They end up making their way back to the ring, and they still duke it out for a few. I don't know how long this match went, but in person, I had to say it was between 45 to 50 minutes. It was a truly just a masterpiece of a match. Just the storytelling, the way that the wrestlers just gave it their all, and really you could see that they were, there was a moment where Cena hits Cody with the AA, but he doesn't even pin him, because he's kind of reached his like peak energy. Like he kind of like passes out in the middle of the ring after hitting the AA. So yes, so many finishers are being delivered and taken, but it just added to the twists and turns. And I think when you have a match of this caliber, you have Cody, who's the biggest baby face of the company. He is the biggest good guy that you can possibly get. He has done, the crowd is so behind this man. But then you have Cena, who is this beloved GOAT, who the fans also are really pulling for. And I don't know what it sounded like on TV, but I can tell you, I was rooting for Cody during this match. I think I felt like I was the only one rooting for Cody Rhodes in my vicinity, because all I heard were anti-Cody chants, pro-Cena chants. It was wild. I actually was a little bit like, where am I? Because I was being very vocal. I was screaming. I was yelling. I was doing the most, man. And I thought, I was like, am I being too much, bro? Because I'm the only one rooting for this man in my vicinity. So I don't know how it looked on TV, but when you just have so many people pulling for one person, and then you're that one person rooting for that other wrestler, it's a little bit of an interesting experience. So yes, I have nothing bad to say about that match. Give me as many finishes as you need. It
also plays into the whole thing we're talking about with wrestling being predetermined and expectations and watching it and knowing it can go any way, and you're kind of predicting that, kind of, all these analysts, basically every wrestling fan ends up turning into analysts, how they're going to write the story. Everyone thinks they know the script. But I think when you're watching it on TV, and especially when you're in these online communities, it becomes a little bit more like, what's the word? Like, a little more stifled, because everyone's trying to predict, everyone's trying to say exactly how it's going to go, everyone wants to be right, or everyone's like a backseat writer who thinks, oh, they could have written the match better, they could have written the story better. Yeah, for sure. Me too. I'm like, because people, because there's other thing with this match, there's tension of people wondering, is one of them going to turn? If you go into the match with both of them being face, they can't end the match with both of them being faces. So, I think especially with Cody, I think a lot of people, in the back of their minds, maybe not even back, maybe a lot of people are yearning for a Cody heel run, because I think we can see an amazing side of Cody with that as well. But I think the tension of that too, seeing that that's going to come to fruition. But I think when you're in person with something like this, you just work so well. A lot of that kind of goes out the window, because you're just in the moment, really experiencing it, and whether or not, maybe I'm sure maybe at some point, if the matches are less invested in, you might be thinking, well, how is it going to finish? I think I know how this is going to finish. But there's something special, and I think that this is important, that WWE caters to that live crowd, because that's where you're going to get all that energy, is let's just take these people on the ride. And I think that's a lot of fun, and you can forget about a lot of that other extra stuff. So I thought, even though maybe it seems a bit crazy, okay, he hits him with 3 crossroads, he kicks out, hits him with all these AAs, he kicks out, whatever, all that stuff on the stage. Yeah, that was a little goofy, but it is what it is. But I think, hey man, it's John Cena, it's the goddamn GOAT, bro. If Roman couldn't kick out, who else can kick out but the GOAT, bro? Let him kick out at 3 crossroads, man. This is his last go around, last SummerSlam. Let's show Cena for the GOAT that he is, the Super Cena, and put Cody on that pedestal, because that's the thing, when you raise someone to such a level, someone still beating them, there's no bigger endorsement in the company. So shout out to Cody getting that done. That was a lot of fun. Seeing how that played out, and that mutual respect, because only because you have them both end the match as faces, do you get that moment at the end where there's that mutual respect, there's that hug, there's the tears, the true emotion, because that's where you say the reality blending into the story. Of course, Cody Rhodes is someone who grew up in the industry, who grew up during the time where John Cena's in the ascendance as like the man in the company. He's gonna have the utmost respect for Cena, watching how someone put the company on his back for however many years. And Cody couldn't even break through to the main event scene. He had to end up leaving the company on his own journey. So now he's coming back full circle. Now Cody's the guy who can take the company into the future on Cena's retirement tour. That's like, I probably couldn't even describe the emotions that Cody's feeling there, being the guy to take over from the GOAT of his era, basically. Never gonna see Cody there. Cody's on the older side, he's not old, but like he's on the older side for being the main guy. Like he didn't really have it in his prime as like a younger dude coming up. So that, you can see those true emotions at the end of that match when they leave it out. And then Cody heads out, and then John gets the standing ovation from the crowd, or maybe I'm just missing the timeline, but John gets this emotion and this reaction from the crowd. It's like, okay, we got to see our GOAT put on a classic match in his final SummerSlam.